Welcome to the G-Spot.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Hello everybody and welcome to Dynamic GT League's G-Spot, otherwise known as Dgt-G-Spot. I can't say it like Ray does, but Ray is with me. How are you, Ray? Tickling the G?
I don't know, I need to ask my wife.
I think that's the funniest thing you've ever said. Kirsty's probably looking at you going, what are you fucking saying? I need to get us to wife. But anyway, welcome to the G-Spot. For anyone that doesn't know, this is where in Dynamic GT League we get to have a look at some weird things that might happen during races, or perhaps if something has been reported or someone wants clarification on something, we're able to show it. Or perhaps if we've seen something on commentary during a race that we can then go, well, I thought I saw it was this way, but I'm not sure, and we can have a look at it afterwards, and we can go, actually, you know what, yeah, this is why commentators make errors, and you can't always take what we say as gospel, because we say what we see, but we don't always know exactly what it is that we've seen. So, where do we start, Ray? Where do we start?
With the first G-Spot.
I suppose you're right. Okay, so let's crack on. Let's get straight to it, into the first G. So, G1, Race 4, Fuzzy Gary. This was one that we actually saw while doing commentary, if you remember. Right on the last lap, looking at the spectator view here, this wasn't the exact view we had, but it was between Demon R and Formula Gary. Can't really tell there what the situation was at the fuzz activation point. So let's have a bit more a detailed look at it. So on board with Demon R, you see making a move on Gary. Don't know if Gary knows he's there or not, and difficult to tell from this view who is ahead or not, but then Gary's there, and they go through the corners. Gary gets a little bit wide, and Demon R bottles it on the exit. Okay, so from Gary's view, I think this is the view that he uses. You can see Dave the Hart. Demon R never appears on his screen to the left. He was in the mirror. And again, difficult to tell from this view who may or may not have been ahead. So, if you didn't have a radar, I could understand someone not knowing exactly what the situation was. So, we have the advantage of looking from off board. So, Gary battling with Dave. Demon R comes alongside. And pause it here. So, the fuzz activation point is the GT banner. So, let's have a look. Go for a little wander, go for a little walk, and we can see at this point that before the G-Spot activation point, Demon R is ahead of Formula Gary. So, as this goes on, if Demon R is still ahead of Formula Gary at the activation point, this is where you would say, okay, we would expect Gary to then back off and tuck in behind Demon R. It's his position. So, as we get closer to the actual activation point, we're not there yet. Okay, Demon R is still ahead. So we'll get a bit closer, a little bit closer, just to get right under the activation point, and then we can see for certain, yeah, Demon R was ahead when we go for a walk. So yeah, Demon R's ahead. Now it's easy in hindsight for us to sit here and go, yeah, Demon R is clearly ahead, Gary should have given that position back. But there is the possibility that Gary may not have realised that Demon R was in this space, in that position. Because at this point, if Gary was focusing more on Dave and not really looking at the radar, he may not have realised that Demon R was there. So that could then beg the question, why didn't Demon R just go for the move? It was his to take. Well, part of the fuzz rule is that if anyone is in doubt about who is ahead or not, then the person attempting the overtake is the one that should back out. So I actually think that what Demon R has done there is, I know what he's done, because I know that in that situation I thought, I don't think Gary has spotted that I'm here, or if he has, he hasn't realised that I'm ahead. I'm going to back out of this, because if Gary hadn't realised that I was there, or couldn't tell who was ahead, if I'd have just gone for the move, it would have ended in disaster. Now, in hindsight, I could have easily, after the race, put a report in and gone, Gary has overtaken me in the G-spot, and Gary could potentially have been given a penalty for it. I've decided to not go down that route because I can understand there may have been different factors, and I'd much rather just embarrass him on the G-spot. But no, not embarrass. I'd rather just bring it to everybody's attention. I don't think Gary's gone into that and gone, well, fuck yeah. I don't think that's the situation at all. I genuinely don't think Gary knew that I was there. Because let's remember as well, you'll know this, Ray, I'd pitted one lap before that, I think. So Gary probably didn't even know that I'd pitted from third place, had come out way behind him, nowhere near him, and suddenly appeared in that corner. Because what I didn't really show there was that the hairpin before running down to the fuzz, I was so far behind Gary and Dave the Harp that had Gary looked in his mirrors going into the hairpin, he wouldn't have even thought twice about me for the next 4 or 5 corners. I was that far back. But that's what the benefit of the fresh tyres and the boost did. So I personally can't hold Gary fully accountable for that. I can understand there may have been some confusion. But it'd be interesting to get your view on that, Ray.
But was it last week we done Rich Blue,
Was, yeah. Yeah, from race
SR.
2. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was one thing I pointed out, and that was a order tower on the left-hand side.
Yep.
Like a wee quick glance of that, you'd have seen who was ahead and who wasn't. And yeah, these cars are going too fast. Could Gary have had the chance to look up there? In this instance as well, I don't think he could, because he's too focused on Dave the Harp and
Exactly.
not hitting into the back of Dave the Harp.
Exactly.
So, and yeah, I say about that order list or whatever you want to call it, and maybe sometimes try to get a quick glance in there is good enough, but see, when you're that close, I don't think you can use that anymore. Really use that. It's going to be too hard, and I like the way Demon R's handled it. He's went, okay, you've overtook me on a fuzz zone. I'm not going to report you for it. I think maybe because he just pitted, he knew he had a chance of coming back at Gary.
Yep.
Didn't he not have the chance? Maybe his tyres were done. Maybe it might have been a different scenario. That's maybes and ifs and buts. But yeah, it was well handed on both accounts, because Gary could have easily have tried to look at the placement and went straight into the back of Dave the Harp, and we would have had a bigger scenario going on than what's really going on.
Exactly. I mean, obviously what we don't want is people to just go, oh, well, I didn't have time, and just sort of be blasé about it. But, I mean, that's obviously not what we're saying. And I think the point that the one thing that you said that, for me, hit the nail on the head was Gary was focused on Dave. Gary was so close to Dave, he was focused on that car, right? And to be honest, I can 100% fully understand that. And to be fair, wouldn't really have expected anything else. I mean, if there had been no other car around, different scenario. That's a very different scenario. But when you're that close to a car and you're battling with that car, that's where your focus is. Because also, not only that, as Gary's approaching that corner, if there had been a car close to him going into the previous corner, because like I said, I was nowhere near him, but if I'd have been right there with him, heading towards the fuzz zone, he would have had a point of looking at his radar and going, right, okay, he's too far back there. I don't need to look. I now need to focus on what's forwards, and that car behind me has to focus on me and what I'm doing. Because that's basically how it happens very quickly, but that's basically how it'll work. I don't need to worry about what's happening behind me. They need to worry about what's happening in front of them. And so, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Gary was focused on Dave, and rightly so. And I genuinely don't think Gary saw what the situation was there. And I genuinely don't have any problem with Gary doing what he did, because if he genuinely didn't see that I was there or didn't see that I was ahead, excuse me, I have no problem with that whatsoever, because a bit like we touched on in the race commentary yesterday, I've now forgotten what I was going to say. I'd much rather see people make genuine mistakes while trying to do the right things, rather than people make dumb mistakes doing the wrong things. So Gary making that error by focusing on Dave and making sure he does everything right with Dave, I have no issue with. So next time, Gary, fucking move out of the way.
Also, Diminar was in the wrong gear coming out, so
oh yeah,
he buggered it himself.
Did you notice that I edited that bit off? But I mean, to be fair, that is a good point. I did come out of the corner in too high a gear, and I got overtook by Hay, and I think someone else overtook me. I can't remember. It was shocking, but yeah. So let's move on to the next one. So let's see, G2 race 4, Mitch getting a fuzzy exit. Okay, yes, this was the one we saw. Mitch and Dave the Hart. We saw this on the race footage in the fuzz zone again. Got to say, Mitch and Dave do everything right here. Mitch is doing the right thing. Then just here, Dave has a little bit of a wobble. Mitch comes in a bit quick, tags the back of him, spins him around, and someone else gets collected up in it as well. So we'll have a look at it from this view, and you'll see that everything is done exactly how it is supposed to be done. But unfortunately, Dave just there has a little wobble, gets a bit wide. Nothing wrong with what happened with Dave there. He didn't do anything wrong, and Mitch just got caught out. Two factors on that was Dave's tyres are knackered-ish, Mitch's aren't. So there was a difference in speed in the corners, but Mitch is at fault here. Now, could he have attempted the overtake through the corners? Yes, once they've dealt with the fuzz entry. There would have been a point where Mitch, being faster, could have got through it. But he did tag him, he did send him wide, he did spin, and Mitch did wait for him. What was unlucky was Hay, 4 cars back, doing exactly what he needs to do in the fuzz, being nice and safe. Comes out the corner, all of a sudden there's cars all over the road, and nothing Hay could do there.
Gary moved out at the last moment. He couldn't see a thing.
He couldn't, could he? I mean, that's one of those situations where, on the view as well from Hay that I've shown there, it's easy to go, oh, well, he could have moved. No, there's no way he'd have been able to react. There's nothing he could have done. There's nothing Dave could have done. Hay's just been so unlucky there. And again, I mean, that's a situation where, okay, Mitch is at fault. He's spun Dave. Yes, Dave's had a little bit of a wobble, but that is where the car behind, it's still their responsibility to make sure that they are being safe. And Mitch has just been caught out. I mean, what I will say is that during that race, I did notice that Mitch was going into that chicane faster than, say, I was. And on occasion, he was running a touch wide on the exit. He was struggling a little bit with that one. He said it himself in the practice before the race. I didn't want to tell him that that's what was causing it, because I needed to beat him. But yeah, so unfortunately, just at that moment, Dave on his tyres, doing what he can do, taking the corner the best he can take it. Mitch got caught out, spun him around, away she goes. Everyone else has done really well to avoid it. Bugger all Hay could do, just massively unfortunate. Here's a question for you though, Ray. Would Mitch have to wait for Hay?
Oh, I wasn't expecting that call.
I know you wasn't.
Question. Would you have... No, I think it's just unfortunate he was caught up in that, because those other cars around it went round. It was just he never had enough time to react.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. Your hesitation of answering is understandable. Because I'd hesitate.
Like, because you just threw it straight on me. I was like,
Oh,
what?
yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, other cars got around. Gary, I think, shot off to the left, and he never had time to react before he had Dave the Harp right in front of him.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those where, okay, you could at most say, well, you know what? There's nothing that says that Mitch should have waited for Hay in that scenario. Some may say, well, okay, it would have been a nice thing to do, but he wouldn't have got penalised for not doing it. Now, had Hay been ahead of Dave, the Harp, and Mitch tagged Dave into Hay and both spin, Dave and Hay spin, then yes, Mitch would have had to have waited for Dave and for Hay. Because even though it would have been Dave that hit Hay, the reason Dave hit Hay is because Mitch would have hit Dave. Now, some may say, well, that's no different to Mitch hitting Dave, spinning Dave around, Hay coming along, hits Dave. Mitch still hit Dave, but then the only difference is that Hay hit Dave. Well, it's a situation of, yes, Mitch has spun Dave. Dave's car has spun around, could have gone anywhere. He's not in control of that. Mitch isn't in control of where that car goes. And in that situation, it's not a... we've had it before where we've had to say, right, okay, one car has had a minor collision with another car and it's had a massive knock-on effect, ruining a number of people's races. This isn't one of those situations. This is one of the situations where, yeah, Mitch has made a mistake. He's spun Dave. And what happens with Hay is just massively unlucky, and it's not something you'd give a penalty for. So I think you answered that correctly, Ray. Well done. Have a bonus, sweet. Or have a bonus G-spot. Should we move on to the next one?
Just to add in there, I didn't hear team radios or anything, like maybe a shout out. Those like, I'm spinning across the road or something. I don't know. Is there something that could help? I don't think so, because the cars just darted left and right, and he was the only one that was collected.
There was no. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a few team radios of people laughing at the whole situation. But I mean, there's an old rule of thumb, alright? And I mean, some people may have experienced this. If you've got cars spinning around all over the place in front of you, the old rule of thumb is aim at where they are, because by the time you get there, they'll have spun out of the way. Sometimes, though, that doesn't happen. I mean, I'm sure you'll have done it at some point. I'm sure many people will have done it. You're driving along, car spinning around in front of you, you swerve to move out of the way, and they end up spinning into the space you've just moved into to go around them.
Yeah, I've done that a couple of times at practice at Brands Hatch with Art Pal.
Yep, exactly. But if you'd have just aimed at them, they would have spun. Sometimes they don't spin out of the way and you hit them. I don't think you could say that Hay went for that, I'll aim for where he is, because he'll be gone, because he just didn't have the time to react to it. And there was smoke there as well. So, yeah, unlucky. Right, let's move on to the next one. Let's see what we got for G3, race 4. Fancy a Scottish sandwich? Okay, so we've got SRI, Dave the Harp, and Formula Gary. Okay, this was one where on the commentary, I don't know if we saw it actually, but did see it in the race. We've got SRI having a look at Dave. Here comes Gary into the gap. SRI squeezes Gary into Dave, and Dave into the wall. We didn't fully see it on commentary, but I say this now, I don't think anyone's to blame here. This is just so unfortunate. SRI got a bit of a run on Dave, and I will say that both SRI and Dave the Harp do brilliantly here to give each other plenty of room. Unfortunately, in doing so, it has given Gary a massive piece of tarmac to drive into, because Gary's a long way back at the moment, but Dave and Ray giving each other space. All of a sudden Gary comes along, and I could understand maybe Dave being a bit miffed, thinking Gary's just stuffed me in the wall. But when we see it from Gary's view, this for me is fascinating, right? So Gary does absolutely nothing wrong here for me. SRI, Dave the Harp giving each other space, and that space just opens up for Gary and unfortunately closes towards the end. And this is one of those where I don't think SRI from this point can realise there's two cars next to him, because of a number of reasons. Now, okay, I'll go through the reasons first. Number one, Gary came from a long way back, and SRI may not have realised that Gary had got himself into that situation. Number two, when SRI looked at the radar, there's a good chance that heading into the corner, he saw one car next to him, and then when he looked again later around the corner and looked at the radar, saw one car next to him. Perhaps couldn't see that third car over the further side. But that's one of those situations as well where sometimes when cars end up three wide, it is easy for one car on the outside to not realise there's two cars next to them. Now, some may say, and it would be a genuine question that they could ask, so I'm going to ask it to you, Ray. I have just said that Gary came from a long way back. So how can I also say that Gary has done nothing wrong? Dropping them on you today, aren't I?
He's, to be fair, he's not a long way back from SRI. At corner, SRI hits the brakes to keep that tighter line, and yeah, he wasn't a long way back from SRI. He might have been a long way back from Dave the Harp, and the way the corner went and the speed difference, and maybe tyres were a factor as well. That maybe have caused the.
Could be. I'll pose another. I'll be like a American lawyer here, and when someone's gone objection, I go, okay, I shall ask the question slightly differently. Did Formula Gary fairly put his car into that position?
Yes.
Well, there you go. There's the answer. Yeah, you're right. Well, not that I know you're right. You know you're right. I know you're right. But yeah, he did that, and that is part of the key point. Sometimes you can have a situation where a car comes from what is perceived to be a long way back, but may also end up in the situation like Gary did here, where he has done it fairly. So I know there was a situation with, I think, Rich Blues and Bunsell a few championships ago, and to be fair, I kind of wish we did the G-Spot then, because I could have shown it, where there was a bit of contact between Rich Blues and Bunsell, final corner at DGT side. Rich Blues was ahead of Bunsell. Bunsell came from a long way back, but then part way around the corner there was a bit of contact between Rich and Bunsell. I think Rich unfortunately moved across into Bunsell. There was contact. I think Bunsell ended up off the road, and I think Rich got a penalty. And I know that at the time Rich felt that Bunsell, had made a late move. But at the time, I think we tried to explain to him that...
You there?
I'm here, yeah, I've been talking all the time.
I heard you, but you went quiet just at the end of Bunsell. I was listening. I've got a nosebleed I'm trying to sort out as well.
Well, that's what you get for picking your nose during the G-Spot. Your nose...
I don't pick my noses.
Your nose isn't a virgin anymore.
I had it off the wheel. I was leaning on the wheel.
Oh, bloody hell. Have you done that yet and turned your PlayStation on and your wheels gone spinning round? Don't do that with you.
Nah, I'm not doing that. Fuck that.
No.
My thumbs are bad enough.
Yeah, I rested my chin on mine once. Okay, so I was saying that at the time, Rich thought that Rich said that Bunsell had come from too far back. It was a late move. But it was one of those where it was, yes, Bunsell was a long way back, but he got into the position he did fairly. He didn't brake late, he didn't brake aggressively, he didn't do a dive bomb, he slowed down normally, and there was a space that he was able to fairly put his car in, which was actually on the outside of a corner. So it wasn't like he was making a move up the inside of someone, he was actually going around the outside of someone. So although for Rich I understand that if you stuck to the words of it, well, he wasn't in fair range heading up to the braking point and he was a long way back. So yeah, well, all those things were taken into consideration. The other part was, did he put his car there fairly? And the answer was yes. And it's similar with this. Gary put his car in that position fairly because it was like Moses. The sea parted and the space was just there for him to be able to go into.
Yeah, there was a few factors. One, SRI brake to take the tighter line, so Gary was in fair range of SRI. Then going through the corner, Dave the Harp left SRI room that made him a wee bit wider than he would probably like to be. So then Gary was fairly within range of Dave the Harp, and then you get to that point of the track where three cars meeting in the middle.
Yep.
Or, well, SRI met all the cars in the middle.
Yeah.
So there could be a bit of blame to SRI for
not leaving space for two cars.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, is SRI going to know there was two cars there? It's going to be very tough to see that because they're going at a high speed round that corner. What was it, a third gear corner?
Just about flat out. Nearly flat out. Two drivers giving each other. It definitely would, if it had been reported, I think it's one that.
The stewards would have took a time.
Yeah, there would have been a conversation about it, and it would have gone down the lines of, okay, Gary did nothing wrong, Dave the Arp did nothing wrong. The question would be, did SRI do anything wrong? And that's where the conversation would take some time, because it's like, on the way in, absolutely nothing wrong. Halfway around the corner, absolutely nothing wrong. On the exit, absolutely nothing wrong if he was thinking that there was only one car next to him, which it would have been understandable for him to think. And there's also, there's another situation we're going to have a look at in a bit, which is a bit similar but not the same. But even the stewards are aware that sometimes in a three-wide situation, when it happens maybe late on, and it's not, sometimes you get a three-wide situation where you just go, why has that person gone and made that a three-wide situation there? That is not a safe thing.
No, that's not what he done. He done a two wide, and then it went into three wide, so he was actually taking SRI, and then unfortunately Dave the Harp going wide around the corner made it three wide. No fault of any driver. Questionable SRI on the exit. Yeah, I understand that.
It would have taken quite a bit of discussion. But sometimes discussion is good. I went to a restaurant the other day and saw someone had what looked like a beautiful fish dish, right? And I asked them, I said, what was that fish that you had? And they went, haddock. I said, oh, really? Because it looked more like fish than duck.
Haddock. Okay.
Haddock. On to the next one, G4. Okay, so G4, race 4. Does my car look fat in these pits? I think it's actually... Oh, right, okay, so it was from race 4. And it looks like we're looking at Mitch again. So, Mitch going for the pit lane, but, I'd hope the D&R wanted the pits there. We didn't see this on commentary. Mitch headed to the pits, and finding there's a car next to him. Now, at the time, luckily both Demon R and Mitch found this amusing, but I'll tell you what, Mitch was lucky that Demon R realised that Mitch might not know he was there, and I'll explain why. So, Demon R takes a later entry to get a tighter exit, but he's going for the pits. But at this point, he realises Mitch might go for the pits, and Demon R could easily have gone for middle of the road on the way into the pits there. And I know it might sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet a bit here, but I'm only doing this for a bit of a jest, because Mitch did find it funny as hell. He was like, "Where the hell do you come from?" But that's just one of those things where sometimes you even have to have awareness on the way into the pits. Because it would have been easy for Demon R to be sat middle of the road, Mitch to come across, and for Demon R to unintentionally make Mitch hit the pit wall. But I think Mitch might owe Demon R a beer for realising that Mitch didn't know he was there, giving him the space so that they both could get in the pits. And what I will say is, once Mitch did spot that Demon R was there, he did dab the brakes a bit. Demon R got in the pits ahead of him, and they came out, Demon R ahead, and Mitch behind. And I think SRI had a good view of it all and caught them both up in the pits as well.
I can't remember.
That's all right. You did. I just didn't put the clip of that one in there. So, yeah, that's the end of that one. Although, actually, no, I'll say the end of that one. I suppose it does bring us on to an interesting question, right? I mean, I've just mentioned... Go on.
Should you look who's on your right-hand side or left-hand side before you go into the pit?
Yes, that is definitely one question. But I'm actually
because
go on.
You are not allowed to put somebody into the pits.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody's trying to do maybe a switchback or undercut on you in the pits or on their side that they've done it, then either you have to slow yourself down and get into a gap, or think ahead and go, right, I'm going in the pits. This person behind me might not be, so I need to try either defend or get across so they know I'm kind of going in the pits.
Yeah. Or backing out of it to tuck in behind them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can't just go, oh, I want the pits. Turn into the pits, and if there's a car there. So, bringing on to another question then. I mean, had Demon R gone middle of the road, I mean, let's say Demon R hadn't had the awareness that Mitch might pit, and Demon R had gone into the pits like normal. Mitch comes across, but Demon R holds his line. Bit of contact, Mitch hits the pit wall. Would Demon R be at fault for that?
None of his the car closest to the pit entry on track, like if Demon R is
I know what you're
Demon
trying
R's
to say. Yeah.
got the better line into the pits, and he doesn't think that Mitch is going into the pits, and he's just going to tuck into the pits, then no, Demon R wouldn't be at fault.
Also,
but if Mitch wanted the pits, he needed to be more aware.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to say, I know what you were trying to say there, which is, I think you were trying to say that in a situation like that where there's two cars side by side, whether they know they're there or not, one car is on the side of the track where the pit entry goes. So it's like at Monza, you come around the final corner, two cars side by side, the car on the right is on the pit lane side. The car that is on the pit lane side, if they wanted to enter the pits as close to the pit wall as they possibly could, so going into pit lane, and then you've got pit wall will then be on their left, and racetrack on the left of that. If they wanted to enter the pits as close to that pit wall on their left as they could, clipping the wing mirror, they can. Because you shouldn't go into the pits side by side. So if two cars are side by side, the one that is further away from the pit entry can't just force their way in. They either have to speed up and get in ahead, or slow down and tuck in behind, or continue on for another lap. But I thought it's always interesting. I think it's interesting to bring that up because I'm not saying that anyone would necessarily do it, but in that situation, anyone in Demon R's position could potentially have gone, I'm going to stay nice and tight to that wall, and if you're going to try and come in the pits, you're going to end up in the pit wall. It's kind of like when, if somebody, we've all had this, right? Especially when SGP's around. You're racing, you're defending, and you are as far over to the side of the track as you feel you can be, going into a corner. You got two wheels sort of on the curb, and a car comes past you up the inside, and you're like, how the fuck have you got the... I'm on the side of the fucking track. Well, that person then starts thinking, well, I'm here, you've got to give me the room now. No, not really. If I'm already at the limit of the track and you're going to, by choice, attempt to overtake me off the track, you can fuck right off.
Yep.
Exactly. In-depth analysis, as always. Okay, on to the next one. Now, I will just touch on, if someone happens to think that someone overtook them off track and then forced them to stay off track, but it turned out they hadn't done anything wrong and you've just forced them off the track, you're in shit creek. Up shit creek. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. So, G5 from race 4, Demon Move or Demon Boo? Okay, this is one that was asked for the admins to have a look at. We've got Mitch on Dave the Harp here, battling last lap of the race, side by side through the S's, and then Demon R up the inside, and a bit of contact. This is where Mitch lost out at the last race. Race 4, not the last race. Ends up losing a number of places, wasn't best pleased, felt he was hit off the track. So let's have a look through it. So Mitch has a run on Dave. Got to say, this is brilliant stuff down here. Although it gets a bit close, maybe a bit of contact, there's nothing in this, it's all fair. There's a good battle going on ahead, good battle here, a lot going on. Mitch has gone to go into the corner by the looks of it, maybe, and Demon R dive bombed him perhaps, and Mitch walks wide before he can do. Let's have a look at it from, I think we're going to have a look from Dave's view. So we're on Dave the Harp. So Mitch is catching up pretty quickly.
We're on Mitch.
No, I'm on Dave the Harp.
Right, sorry.
It's alright.
That's why I wait till the end to talk.
So they're side by side, that's fine. And then all of a sudden, Mitch and Demon R will come zooming through. And Dave the Harp's kind of saying, thank you, but no thank you, I didn't gain anything. So look at it from Demon R's view. So Demon R is nowhere near Mitch and Dave the Harp at the moment, but he is coming down the hill fast, passes Hay, sees a gap, passes Gary, sees another gap, goes into it. A little bit of contact, goes around the final corner, wondering, oh shit, did I hit Mitch off? Did I not hit Mitch off? Okay. So, we're looking at here. Now, I will say, the admins have had a look and I have had their responses. I'll go through them in a moment. I'm going to go through my perspective here. So, coming down the hill, a bit risky here, but all fine between him and Hay, so that's fine. Gary is kind of sitting behind Mitch and Dave. Now, Demon R's caught up so quickly here that all of a sudden there's a gap that appears, and kind of fairly but a bit risky. Maybe a bit of contact between Dave, with Dave wanting to turn in and Mitch wanting to turn in, and I don't think either of them realised that Demon R had got up the inside here. So as this sort of plays on a little bit in the slow-mo, Mitch and Dave are having their own battle, and although it looks a bit close here, it's absolutely fine for me. Gary hasn't really got anywhere he can go. I don't know if he realises Demon R's there, but there's nothing wrong with Gary. Now, Demon R does attempt a risky move here, but this is one of those situations where, for me, this bit's risky, but I would have to see what happens a little later on. Dave the Harp is going to start turning into the corner. I don't think there's any way Dave can know that there's another car over to the side here. Dave starts turning in. Mitch starts turning in shortly after. And Mitch has no idea that Demon R is here. There may be a bit of contact between Dave and Mitch, I'm not sure. But Mitch is going for the corner. Mitch doesn't know that Demon R is here. So the key points now for me is Demon R, is he in control of his car? Is this a dive bomb? And the answer for me would be no, it was a risky move, but not really. He's not gone bat out of hell. And I think it's unfortunate that Mitch hasn't spotted him there, so I don't necessarily say I don't think I could put blame on Demon R, but I'm not saying I blame Mitch either, because a bit like the one we saw with SRI and Gary and Dave the Harp, when you end up in a 3-wide situation like that, at a high-speed part of a track, closest to a corner, it's not going to be easy for cars 3-wide to know that they're all there. So, for example, Demon R will have known that Mitch and Dave were there. Dave the Harp would have had no way of knowing that Demon R was there. So if Mitch knew that Demon R was there, Dave the Harp may have gone to turn into the corner, but Mitch would have then gone, I can't turn in, there's a car next to me. Dave the Harp may have hit Mitch. Dave the Harp may have been wondering what's going on. He'd have looked at it afterwards and found out. But we saw Mitch turn in for the corner, which suggests to me he had no idea that Demon R was there, and I know he didn't because I've spoken to him. And to be fair, I fully understand that he would not have known that he was there because, again, he was focusing on Dave. So Mitch has gone to turn in, thinking that there's no one there, and unfortunately there was a car there. So what I've done with this one is, that's my view of it, but what I did was I put in a message to the page, sent it to the page, hey, I did the right thing. And what I've done is each one of the admins has had a look at it. I don't know if they've talked to each other, but they've had a look at it, and each one of them has sent me their reply, which I will read out in a moment. I'm just wondering, Ray, if there was anything that you want to say, add, or whether you want me to just go through what you said.
Sorry, what?
Sorry, what? Exactly. Is there anything that you want to add, or would you like me to just read out what you said?
No, do the other two first.
Okay.
That'd be interesting.
It will, because the other thing is, I don't believe the admins have spoken to each other.
Nope.
And I haven't told each one of the admins what the other has said. So this is a potentially risky move. But also,
I hope it works out fucking well.
Well, this is the thing. It is a risky move, but I mean.
But then it shows that the admins have went and because it's another admin involved, they went and looked at it in their own way and gave their own opinions. And if it all comes back that we're all on point, or there might be some what's the word that starts with D?
Disagreements. Descriptions.
Yeah.
I know the word you mean.
Then
discrepancies.
Yeah, we would sit down and talk about it.
Exactly.
And figure out why each one, or get to know why each one thought of their views on it. So it's not. I don't think it would ever be a bad thing, because as admins we like to grow, and this is we've never had this situation before.
No. Putting you all on the fucking spot here.
Yeah, you put all on the spot, but this is where we can see where admins' opinions are coming from, and then as admins, because there's 4 of us, we can learn from each other.
Yeah.
Well, 3, you're not allowed in this one, so 3 of us. So us 3 would learn from us, and if he has anything to say about it, we tell him to bugger off.
Exactly. I mean, that's
involved.
I've had 0 input. For anyone that is interested, I mean,
yeah, as all cases with admins, no, the admin involved has 0 input. He's not allowed to add input.
Yeah, I mean, if this had been a report, I mean, I just want to explain exactly what happened, because I like the idea of transparency, and you're right that depending on what these responses are, I mean, if they're three very different responses, and it creates a very interesting situation. But it would allow everybody watching and listening to realise that, okay, well, if that's the situation, then what happens next? And that for me is quite interesting. So this is a risk, but it's not a... There isn't a no-win situation. This is a no-lose situation. Yes, it matters what the answers are, but even if the answers are three completely different answers, we still win from it because the admins will be able to chat about it, be educated about it. The people watching and listening will be able to go, okay, so they don't always agree. So what will happen then? And obviously, it would progress.
We have a big fight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, but for clear transparency, if this had been a report, then the admin involved would not even be in the same chat party when this was being viewed. But for clear transparency, because of time constraints, I was in the chat party with the guys, but there was zero discussion about what happened. We'd literally just finished recording the race footage. I was recording the video clips for the G-Spot, and while I was doing that, Ray was able to go and look at a couple of things to put on the G-Spot, but also the two Steves and Ray were able to go and have a look at the incident, said nothing about it whatsoever, and were just instructed, have a look at it, whatever you think, send it to me, and yeah, we'll say it on the G-Spot. So that's exactly how it went. So other than reading these messages out, I do not know what has been said. So let's crack on. So,
I hope it comes out as three different views.
Okay, so SGP. Demon R is within fair range to move alongside Mitch and has 10 mile an hour more speed. It seems as if Demon R has surprised Mitch by being there as he turned towards the apex. With Mitch turning into Demon R and have that contact that sends himself off the track, I would put it down as fair by Demon R and a racing incident, as Mitch more at fault as he's the driver that lost out. So that's SGP's view. Now, that may come across as a bit bashing towards Mitch, but I actually don't think it's intended that way at all. Okay, on to Steve F1. My opinion. Dave hits the rev limit. I think that's Dave the Harp. Dave the Harp hits the rev limiter into the S's, which allows Mitch to draw alongside. I don't know what he's doing drawing. He should be driving. So it allows Mitch to draw alongside. There's a bit of wheel banging, which slows them up. Demon R has carried much more speed out of the S's and puts his car into the space to Mitch's right. Mitch goes for the apex final corner, probably to give Dave the Harp space, but Demon R is already there. I don't think Mitch had any opportunity to see Demon R coming. I fucking hope not. That's a private thing, thank you. So don't think he's at fault. And don't think Dave the Harp can be blamed also. I don't think there's any blame to be attached to Demon R. The space was there and he is in control of his car at all times and doesn't run wide into the final corner. It's just an unfortunate incident. Okay, let's go to SRI.
I wish I wrote more.
Yeah. Okay, so SRI. Ray's view. Demon R did go for a space that was available. Mitch might have not seen that Demon R had gone to the inside as he was battling with Dave the Harp. Mitch and Dave the Harp turn in to Demon R that's already inside them. Both had Demon R... Sorry, that's inside them both. Had Demon R ran a little wide from the apex, then it would have been Demon R's fault. I'd say good, but risky move. Now, I'll be honest, I got a little like hair sticking up on the back of my neck there, because as exciting as it would have been to have had 3 completely different answers, what we've actually got there is 3 answers that, although maybe worded slightly differently, are exactly the same. And between the 3 cover all of the points that the stewards would have to look at. So, I mean, one of them being one that you actually said, Ray, because this is one that obviously I would always look at, is had Demon R ran a little wide from the apex, then it would have been Demon R's fault. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because it doesn't matter if it's Demon R or whoever it is, the person in Demon R's position, if they run wide from the apex, that means they haven't slowed their car down enough. That means they're not in control of their car. That means they haven't slowed down enough to make sure that they can give the space to the 2 cars that they know are there. And that's the key point in that from the view that driver had, that Demon R has, he knows there's 2 cars there, and if you're gonna attempt a bit of a risky move, you have got to make sure you're in control of your car. And I think every other point that was made there between the 3, of each 3 says they don't think Mitch knew Demon R was there, and none of them would expect Mitch to know that Demon R was there. And that is all. I think for me, Ray, that's a big factor. Go on.
Got it in there fairly.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one of those where it's every single one of you has been able to look at it and go, there's no way Mitch could have known that Demon R was there. Does that mean that Demon R was there unfairly? No. Should Mitch have been more aware? There's some instances where you go, yes. So when we had a look at the pit lane one with Demon R, with that one you go, yeah, Mitch should have been a bit more aware there. Laugh and joke about it. Awareness is learnt. This one, though, I don't think any one of the admins would say Mitch... Well, they didn't say Mitch should have been more aware. I mean, I'm pretty much sure 2 of them said it identical just about. The other one also hinted on it, that Mitch's focus was Dave the Harp. Fully understandably so. But, yeah. So sorry to disappoint you. There's not going to be a follow-on from that.
No, it was to be bit like SRI and Gary and Dave the Harp.
Mm-hmm.
Gary got in there fairly, and then it was SRI. Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Dave the Harp would be there on the outside as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was quite interesting to watch. Took a few watches to get the full view of it, because we don't just go on board one person, we go on board everybody within the vicinity and see what we can see. We check steering angles and everything. It's nothing's. We try and leave no stone unturned. And
but here's a question.
Sometimes it gets into big arguments. And
well, here's a question then. I mean, I know that when we do stewarding stuff, we do try and look at everything and cover everything. But does that mean that if someone, let's say someone got given a penalty, if they turn around and said, well, I don't think that's right, I think you've missed something, I don't, what you say has happened isn't what has happened, would it matter what they say?
Yeah, it does, because we take their view into we'd ask them, well, they give their view, then we look at from their view, we look at other drivers' views, the other person involved view, and we come across, and we break it down into certain aspects depending on the incident.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, what we've just done with this admin's responses was a risk, and
I'm just glad we got it fucking right.
yeah. But it's like I said though. I mean, even if the answers had been completely different, it would have led us down a very interesting path, and one I would not have been afraid of going down, because it would have allowed people to see what, obviously, from a stewarding thing. Because this is that scenario where if the admins were getting together as stewards, looking at that, and that's how each three of them saw that incident, looking at all the details, then obviously that's what the result would be. But if one of them had a different view, it wouldn't be, oh, well, two of us agree so you can fuck off. It's, okay, you disagree, talk to us, tell us about it, explain why, convince us, show us, is there something we've missed? And this is the point for the drivers. We're human. We could miss stuff. I mean, I know I've done it in the past when we've dealt with incidents and someone may be a bit aggrieved, and I've gone, well, have we missed anything? And I've gone back and looked. And I don't think there's ever been a situation where I've gone, yeah, I think we did miss something there. There may have been the odd occasion where we mentioned earlier, about, I know this G-Spot's going on a bit, but for me, this is a fascinating G-Spot, the depth of this discussion. We mentioned earlier, like, again, with the SRI one, SRI Gary and Dave, like, Gary's not at fault, David Harp not at fault, SRI, was he at fault? Don't know. Someone could be, well, he didn't leave space, and then there would be the discussion. So there could be three people that go, well, they're not like he could have done, it's just a racing incident. But if one person is feeling, yeah, I'm not sure, I don't know, I can't say for certain yet, so that discussion would continue on. I mean, we had the Art Pal Dave the Harp one on the G-Spot last week, where part of that was the stewards and admins could not come to a definitive 100% yes, that contact put him in the wall. Yes, it could have been a factor, but there was a little bit too much vagueness, and a definitive answer didn't feel like it could be given. And at the end of the day, we are human, and we are going to miss something at some point. It will happen. I mean, I know we've done it where we've looked at incidents from so many views, and I mean, you'll know this, right, because you're there when we've done it. We look at it so many times, and then all of a sudden someone will go, have you had a look at it from so-and-so's view? No, why? Have a look from this view. Fucking, it's very different. And that person may have been like 4 or 5 cars back, and you wouldn't have thought about it. But you go and have a look, and you're like, oh, but yeah, I never noticed that. So, yeah. And I mean, that does happen.
And it does happen that we get into heated debates, and
no, we don't.
We
have. But I know we have. I was getting into a heated debate.
And it's took a while for it to calm down and then go back at it, and because maybe one admin's looking at a view different to others, and sometimes there's a communication of words that isn't getting put across properly, so we have to break it down. But before that breakdown happens, sometimes there could be a big argument, because there is four stewards, or admin stewards. We'll call it stewards.
You know what might be interesting sometimes? You've just touched on a point there, which I think is touched on a point in the G-Spot. You've touched on something which I think is a very interesting point. You may not realise it, but in the past, when we've done stewarding stuff at different levels, even in DGT League, when it comes to writing out the steward's report, I mean, fair play. Steve F1, when he writes them out, does a brilliant job with it. It's not a job I would want to take off him, even if he wanted to get rid of it.
Near there.
No. But there are reasons for it, and even the things that are written are also discussed about, because it's kind of like a catch-22. You want to give all the information that you can, but at the same time, you don't want to bore people so much that they don't actually read it. But what we don't want to do is give too little information that people then go, well, it says there, I hit him, I've got a penalty. What the fuck? What happened? We don't want that either. So it's kind of like a catch-22. We want to give enough information that someone can go, oh, right, okay, did that happen? I'll have a look. Or, oh, I didn't think that happened. I'll ask about it. So enough information to let someone know what happened, but not too much information to bore the shit out of everybody. But also, like, I would like to get across that when it comes to having the steward's reports are written out, we haven't had to do them for a while. But if someone was to go, let's say Ray, the steward's report was given. We're on talking about this one with Mitch, Demon R, David Hart. So let's say it had been put in as a report, and let's say that the steward's report came back with racing incident, no further action. Well, if it was Mitch that had put the report in, he's probably going to sit there going, what the fuck are you on about? I got hit off the track. Have you had a look at this? Now, if we went into loads of detail, like I said, people aren't going to read it. If we go into a bit of detail, like we're trying to do at the moment, give enough. If someone was to then say, okay, so let's say the steward's report said Demon R fairly went for the overtake, Mitch turned in on Demon R, Mitch ended up off track, no further action. So it's more information. But let's say if I'm Mitch and I'm coming to you, Ray, and saying, I can't believe that that's all it says about that. There was so much more that happened to that incident. Have you had a look at it or not?
I don't understand that, and that's why we get Steve F1 to write up and we read it and make sure he's got every point spot on.
Yeah, but even if it's hasn't got 100% of the information, people can't always take what they read on the steward's report as the only information that has been gathered. So even if the steward's report did say, well, Demon R got there fairly, Mitch turned in on Demon R, Mitch ended up off track, no further action. Well, that might be what that says, but what has actually taken place is the admins have spent a decent amount of time looking at it from a number of angles, like you said, different steering angles, different speeds, different tyre life, different positions on track. Is one car battling with another? And what we show on the G-Spot, these video clips, isn't even close to how much footage we actually look at when we're going through the stuff. But it's
and also also in the steward's report we don't put the speeds and all that in there.
Yeah.
But we try to give as much information as possible. There would never be a steward's report of that caliber. It would have good enough information for the person that's put in the report to go away, right? Okay, yes, they have looked at it and they have spent time on it.
Yeah.
We would never just put two sentences together and because that's not what we want as admins and stewards. We don't want it to see as if we are short arse in it.
Absolutely. And there would never be a situation where if someone did or didn't get a penalty, if someone came along and said, I don't know if I agree with that decision, can someone explain it to me, or whatever? No problem. No problem.
Admins would be there. They would set up a time, like weekends, pretty busy for the admins and well, I say admins and stewards, we're all kind of interlinked, but we can take views differently as admins, take different views as commentators, and different views as stewards. So we split our. We've got split personalities, okay?
I fucking have.
Well, if somebody put something to the page, we would try and get to them before the next race and
definitely.
Explain it more and see if they can see it the way that everybody
the thing is as well,
and make them more settled before the next race, because what we don't want to happen is something kicked off in one race and
it carries
over on the race, and then keeps going, and you're like, why is this kicking off? We don't want that. We try our best.
And I mean, obviously we're doing the G-Spot stuff that can help with a lot of things, as we're seeing, but also, I mean,
and this is a new thing as well. The G-Spot's a new thing, and this is what we're doing, dynamic. We're trying to put different things out there, and I think it's only the drivers and the viewers to see, let us know what they think about these new things that are coming out.
I'm going to mention, I might get into trouble for mentioning this, but there was an idea that we had some time ago, which I think we all thought, you know what, that's a brilliant idea, but unfortunately it's not something that's been practical to be able to do just because of people's time constraints and things like that. Now, when we was in lockdowns, it may have been easier, but we did at one point have a discussion of maybe we could, when there was stewarding to be done, maybe we could invite a different driver to join us and listen in to the conversations, have a look at what we're looking at, basically be a
drivers representing.
Be a fly on the wall, really. But also, if they wanted to give their view, they could. Now, they might get told why their view is wrong, or why their view is right, but basically give them an insight into the stewarding process. Unfortunately, though, like I said, time constraints would make that very difficult. So, for example, not everybody would be available at the time that we do the stewarding. And unfortunately, when we do the stewarding, isn't really a flexible thing that we can do, because it needs to be the four of us available at the same time with the time to do it. So that sort of time period is set for us for when we do it, which then means to get people to come and join us for the experience, we'd probably end up with the same two people, and that wouldn't be the plan. That's not what the idea is. The idea...
I wouldn't be fair to the other drivers as well.
Exactly. The idea would be for everybody to be able to experience it. Now, that has led me on to another idea. So that is something that we've unfortunately not been able to do. It has led me on to another idea, but I actually don't know if I would agree to it. And that would be an unedited section on a G-Spot of a stewarding decision.
It depends how the argument goes.
Well, exactly. I mean, the thing is, if I was gonna put the conversation on the G-Spot, I would want it to be the unedited version. But at the same time, I think the stewards need to be able to have that privacy to say whatever they feel.
Yeah.
To, on occasion, be that person sitting on that fence, or be the person, because I mean, sometimes we do role play stuff because we're a bit kinky, but sometimes we go, right, well, I'm going to play the role of Mitch in this occasion, and I'm going to argue your points. And we've done that on different occasions, and sometimes we'll do that.
We do it on most occasions, and it turns out in arguments because that person's focused on
Yeah, but what about this?
The
But
view
what
of-
about this? But what about this? From the
Yeah.
From Mitch's view, right? From Mitch's view, in this instance, Mitch didn't turn in on Demon R. Demon R dive bomb Mitch. Demon R put his car into an unsafe, and it's not I mean, okay, sometimes it does get heated, but it's a good thing to have someone do that now and again. And it's not like we go, oh, you're going to play devil's advocate this week. But I do feel that the stewards when stewarding, we need to be able to have that freedom to say whatever we want. Because not only does sometimes it get heated, sometimes we have a good laugh with it.
And sometimes it's just that steward that feels the point's not came across and or not been answered.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes from. It's not like one of the stewards go, right, I'm going, right, I'm defending this driver. They look at all points, but in their head, they're listening away to everybody gets a say. And they've not quite grasped the view or the points from the other stewards, so they argue the point that they're trying to get across, and the way the other stewards are coming back, it doesn't sound as if they're answering that point.
Yeah.
So it keeps going on. Like,
I mean, it's one of those things.
Stewarding doesn't only last 15 minutes. It can be anything from an hour to 2 hours, 3 hours.
We have
whatever.
On the odd occasion, we have had it where it's been a rare occasion, but we have had it where we've gone, okay, look, we don't seem to be able to agree on this one at the moment. Let's take the night to think about it, have another look at it on our own, and we'll reconvene tomorrow. And so we'll give ourselves another 12 hours just to mull it over, have a look, compute everything, and we'll catch up tomorrow.
Because like drivers we get heated up in stewards situation as well when we get to that point.
Yeah.
So
and what we often have to do is we'd often have to say to Ray, right,
most,
mate, we know you don't agree.
Most Scottish
yeah. But the thing is, what I mean, it does happen with Ray quite a lot. But I mean, sometimes it's down to the words we use, and that is so important to us as well. Sometimes we try saying the right thing; it may come across. We might use the wrong word, and someone is not picking on that word, but it could be the difference between intentional is not the same as he turned over there on purpose. Intentional is different to, he's turned in for the corner. He's intentionally turned in for the corner is different to he's intentionally turned into the car that's next. So there's a lot of things that we do hang on. But one of the things that we've always tried to do, and sometimes it pisses Ray off, is if Ray disagrees or he's got a difference of opinion, sometimes Ray might say, and you can bollock me for this if you like, but sometimes Ray will say, well, no, it's all right. You three have agreed what you're saying, and yeah, and it's because you're not wanting. And perhaps the conversation's got more heated than it should, and we don't seem to be making any headway. But what we've always done is gone. Let's not just go with what three say. Let's talk through it. This might not be easy, but we'll talk through it. Because that's the right thing to do. And sometimes it has been, and it's not just with Ray, I mean, we've had it with all of them. I know when I was drinking, holy shit. Whoever got penalties
what you
when I was
saying?
drinking. Yeah, whoever got penalties when I was drinking, yeah. Well, all I will say is I didn't win any championships during that time, so it didn't benefit me anyway. But no, I mean, I can get argumentative when I drink, that's why I don't actually like drinking. But yeah, we've never wanted to leave it with one person feeling like the others aren't listening. And quite often we've had it in those situations where by continuing to talk through it, we've then been able to turn the conversation, and we've been able to have a bit of a laugh with it, and then perhaps we come across the right terminology, and then someone will go, that's what I was like hanging on. It was that point you've just made, that it wasn't said like that before, and that's the point I was trying to make, and you didn't understand me. And it's like being fucking married. And we're waffling on a lot about this, I know, but it is an interesting situation. So, do I think we would do a G-Spot section, unedited version of a stewarding decision? Probably not. But one of the reasons that we are doing the G-Spot is to kind of get close to it, in a light-hearted way of showing what appeared to happen, explain why some people thought what happened, to go through it, and to as it says on the picture, aiding the enjoyment. And that's the main thing, because quite often, like with Mitch, I know Mitch didn't have the replay to be able to see this one, and I don't know if this will be the first time that Mitch has seen it. Mitch might watch this and go, well, that was a risky, dodgy move by Demon R. And I would understand him feeling that. But he may also watch it and go, oh, so that's where you came from. It wasn't like you didn't dive bomb me. You kind of did get there fairly. I had no idea you was there. No problem. I don't.
Just like the pit.
Yeah.
Just like the pit.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, in that situation, I don't begrudge Mitch turning in. I'd have been I'd have been amazed at anybody in his position being able to see that there was a car there, and to cope with it. So yeah, I hold no grudges against Mitch, and if Mitch feels that I still did something bad, I'll say something positive on the next G-Spot for you. By the way, we've still got one more thing to look at on the G-Spot.
I know, and with your comment of this discussion of a driver
sitting in,
I would really like that to happen, but it's just when we could.
Well,
maybe that's something admins can look into, because I've always been
keen on it.
Yeah.
Would it be fair? I mean,
but I just wouldn't want it to be the two same drivers. Maybe
I'm going to put words in your mouth better than something else.
As long as it's sports and not anything else.
Would it be fair to say that what you're trying to say is, yes, you would like it to happen, but only if everyone was able to do it at some point? If there was one person that was going to be left out for whatever reason, then no one should get the opportunity to do it.
Well, we can't have 16 drivers and one stewarding. I mean, like overtimes.
Oh yeah, that's what I didn't mean like all the drivers in at the same time. I meant, like, okay, let's say there's 16 drivers in total, 4 of them are admins, so that leaves 12 drivers. Okay, so the next 12 stewarding events, a different driver sits in each time. If we were not able to 100% say, right, every single one of those people gets the chance to sit in, right, then nobody gets to sit in. If somebody would end up being left out for whatever reason, they're not available on the day, we're not available on the day, then nobody should get the opportunities to sit in, because then nobody can be seen as in any way, shape or form getting an advantage from it. Is it the same as...
Or you could put it as, if a driver is going to be available, we could put it on a post of the time the stewarding's happening.
There's also another problem to it, though. I know it, right?
And we can. It doesn't have to be 12 weeks solid. It could be over time. Like, we've got another season to go as well.
Well, there's plenty of seasons to go, but there is the other issue, right? I mean, well, let's put it this way, right? We do our stewarding at a set time at the moment. I personally can't change the time that I do that.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably the same for SGP, and I think it's the same for Steve F1. And I don't know
Same
about
for
yourself.
me.
Right, okay. So,
Yeah.
and that's why we do it at that time. So if there are people that on that day they're just never going to be available.
Okay, I understand it from that point of view.
So
Okay.
that person would never ever be available. Then that means
Yeah.
that nobody else should be allowed to do it at any point, because that
And
person
then,
would never be available.
and then we've got to consider Jason.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but also, what would happen if, let's say, if we were to be sort of proactive and plan ahead, and we go, right, okay, for the next stewarding, right, we're gonna have Jason join us in the stewarding. Comes to the next event, oh shit, we've got a report on Jason. Jason can't sit on the stewarding. Oh,
Yep.
well, who else is available? Well,
See, that's what stewarding goes through. We look at all these points, and
Yeah.
Demon's picking out these points.
Yeah.
Cunt.
Yep, exactly. Right, let's have a look at the final
I,
G-Spot.
I tried to involve you drivers, sorry,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
he's a cunt.
yeah, too right. Fuck it.
Let's go.
Hey,
Next
I
one.
involved the drivers, just like in this next G moment. So, G-wiz, race 4. Anything Jimmy can do, I can do better. No, you can't. We'll have a look at his blues. Going into the pit entry, backs you to the wall. And he actually can do it better, because not only does he then drive the wrong way, he actually spins it around, gets into the pits, and is serviced. He didn't get reset, but this is how fast he hit the wall. Yeah, and SGP drove through as well. So yeah, I'm surprised that Rich had the wherewithal to drive forward, spin around, and come back in like he did there. He did a Jimmy, but better.
You know what I was looking for on that, and I couldn't see,
What, that?
was a speed limiter on the pit entry.
The speed limiter point. You know?
Yeah.
So
So maybe that's why he managed to get it, because it... Well, not speed limiter point.
the point, right, okay. The point that the game takes over is
Yeah.
there's a white line that goes across the road. Okay? It's just literally just before the video clip ends. There's a white line that goes across the road. Now, Jimmy, when he had his crash here, obviously he reversed into the pit entry, and it doesn't matter what pit entry you're going into. If you reverse into it, you're getting reset. But I think you're right. For Rich, even though he had the crash, even though he had to spin around, all of it was way before that auto drive line. Which is why he was able to spin it around and drive in. If it had been, as we've seen before, Laguna Seca, I mean, maybe...
I think the auto drive picks up a wee bit earlier.
Yeah, and it may be a case of, even like if you were on the racetrack, I mean, we might have to try this at some point. I do know it is something that we are wanting to try and look into. Unfortunately, we've not had the time. So let's say Laguna Seca, driving along the actual racetrack towards the final corner, you stay on the racetrack and drive beyond the point of the pit lane auto drive activation point. Stop, back up, drive into the pits, see if it resets you. So if you actually pass the pit lane activation point while still on the track, but then go back and into the pits, whether it resets you or not. Because I mean, I really don't know. We'll have to do some digging on that. We'll have to see what we can find out.
Yeah, like that means have been busy and, with this season. We don't get another break for how many more races?
4, yeah.
4 races, isn't it? Break, and we've got to test quite a few things, but I'm sure I'll get that put in as a list of things to test.
Yeah. Yes.
So we can give that information to drivers so they know.
Yep.
Because what was it? Other than what the Ford and or what the rally, we weren't really bothered about.
Say
But like the pitting.
Oh yeah. The pit entrance. No, yeah. We didn't mind about that.
If you went a lap down, you went a lap
shit.
down. We didn't care. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah.
So that's something we'll test in the future. We won't do it by the end of this season. There's too much going on.
Yes. Also, we are in sort of full swing of finalising details for the next championship. Hopefully, those details will be released to the drivers soon. Sort of confirmation of tracks and lobby settings and all that kind of stuff. Also, there were discussions a while ago about what we'll do after the next championship finishes, which would be on Dgt-Spot. Those conversations are going to be retaken. I mean, this is another situation where the admins got together, sat down, came up with a bit of a plan for what to do after the Super Formula. Came up with a plan, but then over the course of a couple of weeks, some points were made that made that plan be rethought.
And admin didn't agree.
But to be fair, I mean, it was a situation where there were, the four of us had come to an agreement, and then over a few days, one of us, Ray, came to a different conclusion. Three of us were still stuck on our previous thought. But actually, over the course of a couple of days, the points that Ray made actually made sense. I couldn't believe it, but they've actually made sense.
I had to reword it.
Yeah. But it did make sense. And because it made sense, and then there was two people, and then it's like, okay.
But there was a point where I actually said, well, there's 3 against 1 here.
Yeah. We'd already decided it.
Doesn't matter, but then
that's it was us. Yeah,
we all talked again, and
it wasn't like it was you
I
that
changed.
said, "No, I disagree." It was someone else saying, "Well, no, let's hear him out. Let's hear the point, because he might have a point." He did have a point, but and to be fair, it is one of those where I mean, I don't want to give the details away, but it is one of those where the point that was made initially, the point that you were trying to make didn't come across, so it was understood incorrectly. When the point was able to be put across the way you actually meant it, instantly it was like, oh, okay, actually, you know what? That does make sense. And that's why, as admins, when one of us may have, not a disagreement, a different opinion, a different view, we do like to talk through it, because they may not be able to verbalise it in the way that they intended, and it takes a bit of time, which is no problem. And eventually we'll get to a point where we might be able to touch back on this and go, this is what we was on about. So yeah. Right. That's the G-Spot done, I think, Ray, unless there's anything else that you want to mention. By the way, this G-Spot is now half an hour longer than the fucking race footage.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
It's a good job I'm not going up to Art Pals tonight. I wouldn't get there till 1 o'clock in the morning.
But there's been good information handed out in there.
I mean, I don't care if anybody else watches this or not. I do care if they watch or not. But it has been interesting discussion. And this is one of those things as well. I mean, people listen to podcasts and all that stuff. This hopefully is something that, yes, there's video clips, but hopefully this is something that people can listen to as well. And just listen.
These aren't planned of how we go about them.
No.
We just go about them and
we wing
do the conversation. Yeah, we wing it as it goes. So
I mean,
they might be a wee bit longer, they might be a wee bit shorter, but
yeah. I mean, the last one was 25 minutes. I mean, for all we know, there might not even be one next week, because I mean, this is there isn't anything to really talk about. If there's only one thing, we might as well spend the time doing some gaming. But yeah, I do find it interesting conversation, and as always, if people have their questions, feel free to send them to the page or anything like that. So yeah, and I know there's quite a few sort of YouTubers out there at the moment that are doing sort of, I don't know if you've seen it, Ray. We started doing this, right? G-Spot sort of thing. And there's now a few people out there that are doing the
Jordan,
stewarding reviews from gaming, yeah.
Ben, Brody,
Broadbent, yeah.
Brody, yeah.
There's one thing that I will say on this, and I've not really watched much of anything else, but I said it to the admins the other day. I just wish everyone would go with our rule of always give your competitors space. You've got to be there fairly, but always give your competitors space. It makes everything so much better, so much easier. None of this, oh, it's my corner, it's your corner. Give each other room. Because what it creates is...
It's a racetrack.
Exactly.
How can it be somebody's corners? There's 12 or more drivers' corners.
Well, it's not just... It's not just that. I mean, here's, I think, probably my final takeaway on this. Because I'm hungry. Boom, boom. When it comes to people saying, well, I had the racing line, I had the corner. If two cars are side by side heading towards a corner, if one of them is on the racing line and the other one is not, when the car that is not on the racing line gets to the apex of the corner, that car is then on the racing line. So who has the racing line? But also on the exit of the corner, if they're still side by side, the car that had the racing line on the way in will now have the racing line on the way out. There's too many variables in that. Make it simple. Oh, was he far enough alongside? Blah blah blah. It just, if any part of the car alongside, give him room.
They wouldn't have had the racing line on the exit because the other car would have been in the racing line.
Well, yeah.
Because if they've had the entry apex and then they're going wide, then it's a car that's other side by side.
Little and Mark need you.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So just about to jump.
That's alright. It's no problem. You can go, Ray, look after your little one. We've waffled long enough. Clearly, she needs a daddy. So, have a good one, Ray. I shall see you later, and I will end. Go on.
Alright, I'll catch you in chat after this.
Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, so folks, that's the G-Spot over for this week. It's been a long one, but it's been an interesting one. I said, get your questions in, comments or anything like that, or anything you want us to look at. And don't be afraid of, if you're in other racing leagues, don't be afraid of asking them to basically do what we do like this. And one thing I will add as well is, one thing that we do try and do is we try and avoid if, buts and maybes. Well, what if he hadn't have done that? Or what if he hadn't have done this? Or, well, if he hadn't have hit him there, he'd have made the corner. You can't... Or avoiding... in some circumstances anyway, avoiding, well, I think he thought. Now, there are occasions where we can go, well, we can understand that a driver in that situation may not realise a car has suddenly appeared or where they've come from. So we'd say, I understand that might be the situation, rather than saying, he didn't think he was there. So the two are very different, and we do try and avoid the if, buts and maybes. It's always a good idea. Don't try and necessarily say what people think. You can say what you might think they thought they think, but then you just get a headache. Right, have a good one, everybody. Thanks for listening. Hit that like, subscribe, you know what to do. Join us for the next action, where you'll get to see Demon R punting Steve F1 all around the racetrack because of what you did at Brands Hatch. Beat him. Only joking. Right, have a good one, everybody. And we'll see you all again soon.